come on in, come on in. In this video, what we're doing is we're on chapter 3 of The History of My Insanity by TRISHA Paytas. If you've been with me through chapters 1 and 2, you know that the chapters are pretty short, which I kind of like keeping the videos short. I'm enjoying it so far, reading it out loud to you. And if you are a returning subscriber, you know how much I absolutely love you. Now, we are going into the evil stepmom in chapter 3. Let's get into it. Lord, help my family. Forgive me for writing this book. I am not writing this book to hurt anyone. I am almost 25 years old, and I promise you, I am free and clear of all the grudges at this point. I am writing every detail of my life to help someone, anyone, one person going through the same thing, and to remind people that they are not alone. And it does get better. This is a book, after all. What's a book without a happy ending? Maybe. Actually, I can't promise the happy ending, so just keep reading, okay? 8th grade, January 2nd, the day my brother and I were headed back to Illinois after a long winter break. My father brought me into his bedroom with Nick, and they said they had something to tell me, and that was a whole sentence. That was one sentence, okay? One sentence, okay? I shot daggers at my brother for not preparing me for this. Nick and I were always on the same page. Nick was the one person who traveled back and forth with me to California, and we were inseparable. He was the only one I ever felt understood what I was feeling through our stepdad situations and other hardships. My dad told me that he was getting married tomorrow. Shell shock. I hate confrontation or feeling awkward. So I was like, yay, I'm happy for you, when in reality, I was livid. My stepmom was okay. She wasn't fun. She only ate healthy foods, and she wasn't very girly, but none of that really mattered at the time. What mattered to me was that my dad was getting married, and that meant the door would officially be shut on any chance of him and my mom reuniting. My dad wasn't like my mom. I knew if my dad ever remarried, it would be forever. He'd always told me that the only reason for divorce was A, someone physically abuses you and puts you in danger, B, or someone cheats. That's my dad's third marriage. I know his first wife cheated on him, and according to my dad, my mom cheated on him. I always had a theory that my dad settled with dear old stepmommy because she would never cheat, because she was plain and just sort of bland. Ooh, that really is something. Now that is a big dig, because you know this woman, he's still married to her, I think. I believe he's still married to her. Let's just see. My mom was a knockout, a blonde bombshell, but stepmommy was quite the opposite. No, he's not married to stepmommy. No, he's married to somebody else, I believe. Anyways, let me continue. They got married the next day. My brother and I flew home that night, and we were the ones who had to tell our mom. From what I remember, we didn't tell her for about a month or so. I do remember her asking my dad to get back together again, and when he said he couldn't, that's when he told her he had gotten remarried. We should have told her right away, but we were hardly teenagers yet. Why was that our responsibility? It's not. I mean, that's a big burden, you know. I think this made my mom angrier than it made us. I think she got back together with stepdad number 1 for a short period at this time. There's nothing a man can do to Trisha's mom and that will, you know, she's just back with him 1. She goes back with 2. She goes back with everyone. Together they would corner me with questions about whether stepmommy was abusive. I remember coming home from a London trip with stepmommy and my feet were all bloodied. I had blisters from all the walking we did. She was a health nut, so we had to walk everywhere, and I was not wearing comfortable walking shoes. My mom was livid, even more so than the time my dad let me get a perm because I asked for it. My battle was never ending between mom and dad from here to eternity. As soon as my dad remarried, the hate spewed from every end. I had to hear from stepmommy now how terrible my mom was. Dad and stepmommy would try to lure me out to live in California, which I wanted very badly. I didn't understand why they wanted me. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was because my dad wanted to spend time with me? Nope. Here's where the root of all evil comes into play. Money. More money, more problems. My dad sold his startup company for millions of dollars just months after the wedding. I wasn't aware of that at the time. I had to find out about it from who else? The kids at school. Some of Nick's friends had found articles about my dad selling the company by typing our last name into searches, which was what everyone did at the time because the internet was still a fairly new thing. It trickled down to me and I didn't comprehend it, nor did I understand it was real. My dad and his wife ended up moving into a mansion. It was huge and beautiful, and it was where I wanted to live. It was in California, where I had started taking acting classes in the summer, and it is where I wanted to be so badly. I didn't think of moving there as a reality until the following winter. Freshman year got out for winter break, and instead of flying to California to be with our dad for a couple of weeks and then flying back to Illinois, my brother and I drove out to California because my mother was moving into the mansion to start college. No, because my brother was moving into the mansion to start college early. I was so jealous. We drove out in my brother's one-year Explorer, which my dad had given him as a 16th birthday present. My dad had always asked me what car he was going to get me for my 16th birthday. I always said a Volkswagen Beetle, of course. I knew I was getting that as soon as I turned 16. Coming back home alone was a terrible feeling. Stepdad number 2 was back into the picture. We had moved into a new house in the same crappy town, and I felt empty without my brother being there. All I could think about was Nick living it up in California, playing golf every day, eating fast food, and going to college. I wanted it, and I wanted it, and I couldn't. I wanted it, and I couldn't wait for 3 more years. My mom, my sister, and I went to visit Nick that spring. We all fell in love with California. My mom wanted to move out right there and then. She had just lost her father, our grandpa, the year before. But alas, my sister's father, stepdad number 1, wanted to make our lives miserable and not allow my sister to leave the state, even though he had only saw her about once a year. And that was because he made her see him, not because he wanted to. She's got the she's and he's, and that's because he made her see him, not because she wanted to. The stepdad made Callie see him, not because Callie wanted to. Even though my mom and sister weren't able to move out, I knew I still had a chance because my dad was out there and he was asking me to move. My mom knew how badly I wanted to be in LA to pursue acting and be around people who weren't living in a bubble. She also knew my situation at school was not easy. Girls were mean and people were cruel. I was eating lunches alone in the bathroom. My mom supported me and loved me, and she gave me the okay to quit school, move in with my dad, and start school in California. See how Trisha justified this? My mom supported me and loved me, and she gave me the okay to quit school and move in with my dad and start school in California. I moved in with my dad and stepmommy thinking this was going to be sunshine and red carpets. Boy, was I wrong. Okay, let me turn on the air conditioner because I'm getting hot. This one is a little longer, isn't it? Kind of cool. Oh, we're almost done. Kind of cool. All right, let's see. My brother had taken over the guest house and I claimed the big room upstairs there. I even had my own bathroom. I started school at the local high school. I lasted 4 days. Oh, brother. Everywhere she goes, like what just brought to my mind was when she was on Big Brother UK, and I did a whole series on that. It's on my channel. There's a playlist. It just, she doesn't last long. She can't adapt to wherever she's, thrown. So I hope that in Trisha's future life, wherever she ends up, she can adapt to her environment, because this is a big issue here. I'm not in Kansas anymore. Again, I was a little shell-shocked. My high school in Illinois had 400 students. This school had over 4,000. I didn't stand out anymore. I was competing against girls with midriffs showing and kids who drove Mustangs. Girls weren't just thin, they were anorexic. Lies spewed out right away. Lies. My angle this time was that I was a farm girl who never been to the real school before. I presented myself as Elly May from Beverly Hillbillies, and that was my character. Why do you have to change who you are? That's why you don't know who you are now. Now you're complaining that you don't know who you are and your identity. Well, look how young you are, changing characters just because you start a new school in LA. You think everybody's gonna like you if you start acting like Elly May from the Beverly Hillbillies. I wouldn't like you. Look, this is what she says. Nobody cared to get to know me though. No teachers gave me special attention. I gave up. I cried and put on the waterworks for my dad, saying it was too tough. The classes were too hard for me coming from no real education USA. My dad let me drop out. And we looked into homeschooling classes so I could finish high school within a year. I started Catholic homeschooling that summer, but I was only interested in my acting classes in LA. I stopped doing my work for homeschooling and focused only on my acting. And we're gonna believe that she has an high school GED, which she does claim. I don't get it, okay? Listen. It took a couple of months for my dad to catch on that I was failing and not handing in assignments. He wouldn't let me take driving lessons, and he pulled me from acting classes in Los Angeles. Gone were the days of shopping and going out to eat. I had to eat my stepmommy's cooking, which might have well been poison, and I had to do chores. My mom never made me do chores, but stepmommy made it clear she was in charge of me now. Oh, really? I don't think so. I defied her every chance I got. She was truly evil. Evil. Stepmommy was evil because she made Trisha do chores. And because she had healthy food. God. Okay. Air conditioner, you can go off. It already cooled down. My God, we've got a warped mind. Oh my God. She got into screaming matches with my brother, and this is the stepmommy. She got into screaming matches with my brother, and she manipulated the story she told my dad to make it seem like I was the one with the issues. Stepmommy became my dad's wife, and let me tell you, my dad's wife needs to sit down and write her autobiography, because I really would like to know how she became insane. She is certifiable. Her lies put my fibs to shame. It was astonishing. I was not doing my work, so my mom felt that was cause for me to move back. In fact, in July of that year, she demanded I move back in with her. We talked every day about my issues with my dad's wife, how controlling she was, and how she was deterring my dad from helping me with anything I wanted to do. My mom said, "Move back, it'll all be better." My boiling point came when my dad and his wife told me I was never allowed to go to LA ever again. That put me on a tilt. And when my mom told me the real reason was my dad had wanted me out there with him, I knew I had to go home. Apparently, right after my dad sold his company, my mom caught wind and went back to court for more child support. At the time, my dad and his wife were in my ear about pursuing my dreams in California. When I finally did go to California to live, my mom obviously dropped the pursuit for more money, but my dad and his wife went after my mom for child support. What? I know, right? My mom was working 3 jobs while my dad's wife was spending $5,000 on curtain rods. It was unbelievable to me. The battle only got worse. Not the battle for me. Oh no. Who cared what TRISHA ended up? Who cared where TRISHA ended up? The battle for money and who got to keep it and who got to take it. And this was your mother, TRISHA, that sent you to court to do this. I moved back to Illinois, and there was no way I was going back to my old high school after I had declared I was moving to California and never coming back. How old are you? I mean, these things happen within a matter of months. So while I was in limbo for a good 6 months of doing nothing, I gained 40 pounds. That was fun. It was stress and depression. I was stressed about school. I was depressed about my family situation. I had no direction anymore. On top of all that, my dad and mom started this year-long court battle that dragged me to court every other month. My mom was making me testify against my dad, and that broke my heart because my dad tried so hard to make me happy, even if his wife didn't. I loved my dad. I needed to love my dad for my own sense of feeling sane and normal. My dad called it quits the day I had to go in front of the judge and my dad. My mom made me come to court to testify, and I brawled uncontrollably in the courtroom. I couldn't catch my breath, and at that point, I didn't want to catch my breath. See, her crying has always been, the heaving and not catching, everything, it's always been like to the, above, like, very hyper dramatic crying. I couldn't catch my breath, and at that point, I didn't want to catch my breath. It was the only time in my life I would have rather been dead than alive, and that was the lowest point, or so she thought. My dad said, "Stop," before I spoke, and he said, "No more." My dad hasn't taken my side too often in my life, but I will always have so much respect for him stopping that court session so I didn't have to badmouth him. My dad saved my life that day because I didn't want to go on living if I had to choose between mom and dad. It was terrible. Parents, please don't ever drag your kids to court. It's traumatizing. Yeah, I believe that's true. He hugged me and said everything was okay. My mom ended up getting a good chunk of change from my dad. I didn't even think it made her happy. I think it made her greedy. This was the turning point of my mom and I being best friends. I resented my mom for making me do that for money. I resented my mom for brainwashing me to move back to Illinois. I resented my mom for cheating on my dad, allegedly. That was chapter number 3. I hope that we can have a discussion down below. Let me know what you learned from this chapter in TRISHA Paytas. Let's Only send positive vibes and love to everyone. Please do not send hate to anyone. And I will see you in my next video on Trisha. Unless you're part of the makeup video contest, then I'll see you on that one. Which if you're not, you should be, because you should see all these gifts that you win. Anyways, I'll see you later.